Hi everyone and welcome to Compile Codes. So today we are going to discuss about React fundamentals. This is our third session in the series of complete React course. In the last two sessions, I have covered HTML, CSS and JavaScript basics, and today we'll discuss React fundamentals. Okay, so let's get started. Little bit of React. What is React? React is a JavaScript library used to build dynamic user interfaces. Remember, it's JavaScript library, it's not a framework. Uh, React is all about component. UI is divided into small reusable pieces called components. So your application can be divided into multiple fragments, multiple sections, which can be reusable. And these reusable components can pass data, communicate with each other. So sure, your typical React application. So React is all about components. Okay? And virtual DOM. So it says that React uses a lightweight in-memory representation of the actual DOM. This improves performance by updating only the changed part of the UI. So I'll explain later what does it means. For now, you can just understand that React keeps an in-memory virtual DOM, and whenever there is a change of state, React compares the virtual DOM with the actual DOM and then updates it. So that's how it works. And yeah, so what are the topics that we'll discuss? React components, writing JSX, using props to pass data, state management, updating components, state dynamically, event handling, or all those things. Okay, so enough of the theory. I think we will start with the code now, and we can understand as we go. Okay, so inside this project, inside this folder, let's first open a command prompt, and here you need to type in npm create Vite latest. Now what is Vite? Vite is basically a powerful build tool. So if you go to the website of Vite, just I will show you. So this is the website of Vite, and you can see Vite is a build tool that aims to provide a faster and leaner development experience. Okay, so it sort of bundles all the JavaScript applications, and just to get you started quickly with your development setup. Okay, so earlier, instead of using Vite, we used to have npm create react app, which is now outdated. Instead of using CRA or create react app, what you can do is, and what is also recommended, you can use npm create Vite at latest. Just press enter, and this will ask you a couple of questions. The project name, let's say my React, I'll just keep it React app. Okay, you can select React and JavaScript, and it is done. So first, let's just open this into our, okay. These are the commands which is it is also showing you change the directory to React app, and then you install and then run this npm run dev. But first, let's just open our VS Code, and rest of the things we'll do into VS Code. ठीक है, इसको बंद करते हैं, इसको चालू करते हैं. Now this is your React app. If you open the terminal, I'll zoom in a little bit, and that is fine. ठीक है, थोड़ा सा zoom out कर लेते हैं. Okay, so you are inside React folder. You need to go inside React app, and then there you can install all the dependencies, npm install or npm I short. If you look at the structure of the project, in the meantime, you have this source folder. So mostly 90% of the time we are going to spend, we are going to code inside this folder. Node modules is where you have all the package dependencies installed. This is a folder which is for public resources. What is this Vite SVG? I'll show you. Let this get finished. Okay, so installation is done. Now all you need to do is npm run dev, and what it will do, if you go to your package.json file, यहाँ पे you have this scripts. Inside the script section you have dev script which will eventually trigger the Vite build. ठीक है? So if you do this npm run dev, this will start the application at this localhost 5173 port. Control click this and this will open the application. ठीक है? This also has this counter which is changing, and let me bring it side by side so I will explain few things. ठीक है? Okay, so let me close this. You have this vite config.js file here where all the configurations of the vite goes. You can change or modify your port configurations, server configurations, all those things. This is the entry point of our application. Okay, index.html. You will see there is one div element with the id root, and there is one script which is, zoom in, zoom out a little bit more, and there is one script tag with the file mentioned as main.jsx. So this is the file which it is referring to. If you go here, you see there is a component which is already being used here, and that is this is the file for that, app.jsx. We will understand all these things. For now, this has just given you already a ready-made sort of prototype web page to start with. It has this app.css file and index.css file. App.css is for the app component. Specific, the styling is specific to the component app.js. Okay. So for the starters, what we will do is we'll get rid of few things. Let's just remove this app.css file and then go to our app.jsx file, remove everything, save it, and once we save, you can see the file changes are reflecting here, and we do not need this also. So let me delete this. index.css को delete कर लेते हैं. ठीक है? Now we have our app nice and clean. ठीक है? So entry point से start करते हैं. Index.html is our entry point of the application. Let's change this name to just React app. Title change हो गया. Now it has one element with the id root and one main.jsx file. यहाँ पे main.jsx file में जाओगे आप, तो यहाँ पे आप देखोगे कि ये create root react dom से import हो रहा है. React dom, if you want to check, that was one of the dependency along with React. If you go to your package.json file, you have these couple of dependencies, right? React and React DOM. So from this dependency, this is create root is getting imported, and we are trying to get the element by root and then trying to render it. Okay? This strict mode is nothing but it helps you. It helps the application to find any syntax related issues, or for the debugging purposes you can understand that this is for that. If you do not have this strict mode also, it will work perfectly fine. It's just that it's better to keep it. Okay. Now index.css is also imported here. Now there's no styling. Let's go back to your app.jsx, which is what your component. So this component is actually imported here and being used here. So first let me show you how to create a component. So component, we create function based components. These are not class based components. And just how you declare a function, you can declare a component like this. Okay. You can use function declaration, you can use arrow declaration, and what you need to do is you need to export this function as default. ठीक है, नेमिंग कन्वेंशन ध्यान देना, पास्कल केसिंग रहती है इसकी नेमिंग कन्वेंशन. ठीक है, फर्स्ट कैरेक्टर इज अ कैपिटल लेटर. ओके, and what inside the component you can do is you can return content like HTML. So any element from the HTML you can app component you can return. So this is what a JSX is. JSX is basically JavaScript XML. It enables you to write HTML like code into inside the JavaScript. Okay, so you can see it's purely an HTML code written inside a JavaScript function. Okay, so this is how you do it. If you have multiple lines, you can wrap this into this parenthesis, and you can use this. And let's say if you have more than one elements, then JSX will throw an error. It will, if you hover, you can say JSX expressions must have one parent element. So what you can have one parent element, and inside that you can have as many elements as you want. Instead of, if you don't want to use div, you can use something called fragment, which is provided by React. Or just to make it more simpler, you can just have it as empty brackets. This is also equivalent to fragment, and you do not need to import this. So this is about a quick summary about component, and you can have multiple components inside another component. So let's say this app component is being used inside main.jsx. ठीक है, यहाँ पे app component import हो रखा है. Similarly, what you can do, so let's say you create one component. Let's create one folder rather, and inside this folder, let's create one component called header component, header JSX. ठीक है, and what you can do is you can create header. Let's have function base function declaration, and export this header function, export default header. ठीक है, and what you can do is you can just return any HTML element. Let's call it header component. Okay, you save it, you go back to your app.jsx, and instead of having this, you can just use either you can use opening and closing tags for header like this, or you can have the shorter form of declaration for a component like this. Once you declare this, you need to import this also. So what you can do is just import this header component from, not capital I, should be small I, import header from components slash header. Okay, so you can see inside the app component you are now using the header component, and if you save this, you can see first it is rendering app component and then header component. You can have as many components as you want, and it will all render. Okay, and one more thing which I wanted to tell you, that let's create one more component. Let's say we call it, let's call it footer component. Okay, footer.jsx. To create these components first, you can use this extension which you can find if you search for ES7 React Redux native snippets. ठीक है, ये मेरे VS Code में already installed है. You can install this, and what you'll be able to do once you install this is you can use these fast suggestions. So if you have if you type RAFCE, this will, what it will do, react arrow function, export function. If you tap this, it will create an arrow function, and it will export also. Instead of, if you don't want an arrow function, so you do not type RA, you just RFC. You can see react function component, and if you want to export also, you type E also. So this will, if you do not type E, just tab, it will create the function based component, but it will not export. And if you type RFCE and press tab, it will create a function based component and also export this. I prefer RAFCE and tab. So this creates an arrow function and also export the footer component. So this is done. And if you go back to your app component, and if you want to use footer here, you can see as you type footer, it is also suggesting me that whether you want to import footer from slash components footer, add import from slash components. If you tap this, it will automatically import. You can see it is imported at the top. ठीक है, इसको सेव करो, you can see footer component is added. ठीक है, so this was the extension. And so a little bit about JSX. uh, let's clear all these headers and also footer. Let's just have one component, and also remove this. We'll keep it. We do not require this for now. Save it. We just have a header component. Okay. Now, how this JSX work? If you want to, uh, if you want to mention any JavaScript variable, you can declare that outside the return function using const, let, whatever. So let's say if you declare any variable here using const, let's say name compile codes, and you want to show this inside your return function and return block. And let's say you have an element here h1, and you want to say hi and name. How do you do that? You just wrap this with curly braces, and now you will be able to access this variable. Okay. You can also use multiple multiple variables. That you have one more variable called age, and that is 30. And what you can have here is just mention age 30, and that should work. You can also have this entire thing into a bracket and use back and have name dollar exclamation sorry, curly braces, and you can mention the property, and age is dollar curly braces age. Okay, this is how you can use the JavaScript variables inside the return statement. Okay, if you save this, you can see name, compile codes, and age 30. Okay. Now, what else about the JSX? So let's say you have an array here. Let's say you have an array of anything. Let's say you have an array of tasks. So task 1, task 2, and task 3. Okay. So if you simply use this array like this, what it will do, it will just show task 1, task 2, task 3. But what if you want to show this inside an ordered list, or maybe an ordered list like this, task 1, task 2, task 3. Just copy this 2 more times. save this. If you want to show this like this, what you can do, you can use the map function of array. And how you do that is either you can have outside. Okay, first let's have this inside only. Let's remove this and let me remove this also. What you can have is after the ordered list, you can have curly braces and use the map function of array, and they'll have one item, and inside that what you want to pass is this, or even you do not need this curly bracket, you can just simply pass this, and instead of task you will now have the item rendered inside the list item. ठीक है, इसको अगर आप सेव करते हो, now you can see the array list items are rendered in the ordered list. If you want to have it inside an unordered list, you can have the unordered list. Now if you go back to the console, you will notice that there must be an error, or rather warning. If you go to console, you see that each child in a list should have a unique key. ठीक है, so ये जो list item आप use कर रहे हो, this each list item should have a unique key. So उसके लिए आप क्या कर सकते हो, this map function comes with another argument for index. So let's keep that, and you can use it as to define the key. So let's use that, not like this. You will have to use the curly braces like this. If you save this, reload this, now the warning is gone and the result is same. You can still see the list. Okay. There is one more browser extension I would recommend you to install it on your browser. That is React. If you type in React extension, you'll see React Developer Tools, and if you install this, this can be useful. So once you have that installed, if you open the Developer Tools, you can have these options, components and profile. So if you click on this, you can see it will show you all the components you have. So you have right now app component, inside app you have header component, and if you click on that component, you can see what are the props which are used. Right now we do not have any props, and rendered by, you'll also see all the states. So this can be useful while debugging your application, or if you just want to check the structure to get some more idea on the app. So you can install this React Developer extension as well. Okay. So this is how you work with JSX. You can define all your variables outside the return statement. Inside the return statement, you can pass in your HTML elements, and you can use them by wrapping them into curly brackets. Okay. Now next is how you style your components. So let's start with header component only. So let me remove all of these lists, or maybe what I can have is just mention this links, and we will have as what we can have, home, about, content, and we need these links actually into the header component. So we go to header component. This is a function based component. You can also use RAFCE to have this into an arrow function in the form of arrow function. Okay. So before the return statement, let's have this links array, and what we really want is we want to have this unordered list here inside the header component. Okay. So we'll have this here, and we'll have the title also. So let's just wrap this, because if we have this UL and we also try to add one heading component, let's say React app, we will get an error, because there should only be one wrapping element, okay, inside the return statement. So let's just wrap this inside a fragment, and and you have a heading tag called React app. Then you have an unordered list which has links. So instead of array, you need to map on the links array, and then you are good. If you go back to your app, you only need the header. Okay, you save this, you go back to your React, and let's just style this header component and get to know how do you style a component. So there are many ways to style a component. One way is the inline styling. What you can do is you can just have an object created like this, and inside this you can, let's say, have these properties called color, let's say blue, not this, it will not semicolon, it has to be comma. This should be a JSON object, so comma you can use, and you cannot use hyphens like you use in a style .css file. It has to be a camel case, so like you have margin hyphen top. This is not how you use this here, or maybe background color. So background, you have to use it like this, and what you can have is, let's say, gray, not semicolon. Okay. Yeah, fine. Let's just keep this, and let's see if there is any error. Blue is not defined at header. Oh, my bad. All these values should be inside, uh, let's use indigo, inside double quotes, not like this. Okay. Now next thing is, once you have there this object, you can use this anywhere inside your return statement. So let's say if this entire header is inside a header element, and you have a class here, sorry, not class, style, and style, you inside, for the style you can pass an object. So for passing an object, you wrap the object with the curly brackets, right? So inside the curly bracket you can just mention this style object, and if you paste this here, save this, you can see the style is applied. Okay, instead of blue you can have here white. Okay, you save this, and should be fine. Okay, if you use gray, looks like this. Okay, so this is the first way of declaring your styles. This is not a very popular way, because imagine you, if you have a large file, and there are many elements inside this file, and for each of these elements you must be having some styles, and if you keep on defining the styles in the same file like this, this code will be very difficult to maintain. So this is not a good way of having the styles in case of large applications. Okay, but this is one of the way which you can do that. You can also have this entire object declared here inside the style like this will also work. If I save this, I will have to remove or comment this line. Now it also works. Remember, you will have to have two curly braces, right? One curly braces are curly brackets for the object and for passing the object, and inside this you'll have another for this JSON object. Okay, so this is how you do it. Inline styling, or declaring the styling as a variable and then using it inside your return statement. The other way, what you can do is, instead of using style, you can use class name. Remember, not class here, you'll have to use class name, because class is keyword, already registered keyword in JavaScript, so you cannot use that. So that is why we'll use class name in JSX. Okay, and you can have one class. It was the styles. Let me just copy the styles first. So I will just copy this and then I will remove it. And then instead of style, let's just use class name and just call it header. Save this, and inside your index.css, just mention that class dot header and paste this. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे अब जब हम आ गए हैं डॉट सी एस एस फाइल में, सो इट should not be inside double quotes. You can have it without double quotes. ठीक है, and same goes for background color also. You save this. Sorry. So this is how you do it. Yeah. This is the third way, defining a class name and then mentioning the same class inside a CSS file. Now you can have a dedicated CSS file for separate components. So this is a header component. You can also have one module for this header component. Okay. So now we will discuss props. So let me, okay, let me just remove these files, and what we will do is remove this also and save this. And let's say if you want to pass something from this parent to child, okay, what we will do is, let's say we have let's say we want to pass title. Let's say we want to pass the title, okay, which is React app. How we can do that is declaring this like this, and inside header component, what you'll have to do, you'll have to keep this as an argument like this, and you will be able to access this. If you try to log this on the console, you'll see that you are able to access this. Title equals to title. You save this, and if you open the, something is wrong by nothing. See, you can access this title inside your header component. So this is getting passed from your app, which is your parent component, and header is your child component. So there is only one tag. You can also remove this fragment. This works fine. Okay. So you are passing this title property from parent to your child component, which is header. So if you go to your header, you can use this title here inside the return statement like this. Save this, and you still see that this is showing here. You can also have a default value here inside the child component. So if I mention title equals to something like default title, save this, it still shows React app because it is getting passed from parent. So let's say somehow there's no value being passed from the parent. If I remove this and save this, then it shows default title. Okay, so this is how you can mention default props. Yes, so this is what we call props, which is short form for props. So you are passing a prop from parent to its child. Okay, you can also let's say we have an object, let's say person, which has name as, let's say, Vikas, and age, which is let's say 30. Now you can pass this entire object also as a prop, And you can just mention person. Okay, save this, and inside this header you can have one prompt called person, and then you can use this. So let's say if you want to access the name property of person, how you can do that is person dot name. Close this, and you can see this is also rendering. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. You can also access the age property similarly. Okay, uh, you can have it like this, save it, and for age, save it. Okay, so this is about props. Now, communication from parent to child and back to parent. So the one which you saw just now was you are trying to communicate from parent to child, right? You are passing a data which is inside your parent, and you are able to access these props inside your child component. Now, let's say what if you want to trigger something from your child, and that should trigger a function which is in your inside your parent component. Now, how do you do that? Let's remove these props. This also. Go to your header and let's remove this also. Now we don't need all these things. Let's remove this. Save it. What is the error? Let's just check out. Title is not defined. Okay, so let's just remove this and this also. Okay, save this. Now you are good. Okay. Now what we want is, let's say if we click on any of these links which is inside your header, it should trigger a function which is inside your parent. Okay, so let's declare a function here. Let's call it uh, parent function, and this will be an arrow function, and we'll just log something. Parent function triggered. Okay, save this. And what we want to do is we want to trigger this function from child. How we can do that is just in the same manner that you did for the props. You pass this function as a prop to this child component. Okay, how you can do that? You can have a function, name anything. Let's say you're trying to handle links. Let's say you have this, and you bind this prop with the function which you have inside your parent. This is how you bind this. If you, and since you have declared this prop, you'll have to go to your child component, and you will have to have this prop as an argument. And now what you can do, so inside the list items, where is the closing tab? Here. Inside list you can call this function on click. So what will happen now, this handle links is getting passed from parent to child as a prop, and then this function is binded to a function which is inside your parent, and inside your child, on click event of this list item, you are trying to trigger the handle links, which is again passed as a prop from parent to child. This can be a little bit confusing sometimes कि parent से child को prop pass हो रहा है या child से parent को मतलब trigger हो रहा है, but just to understand simply, it is passed just like a prop. You pass function as a prop, and you bind your function to that prop which is written inside your parent. Okay, now if you want to check that, you go to console, and if I try to click in any of the items, see list item I'm clicking and parent function is getting triggered. Okay, so if you want to, anytime I click this, see these counts are increasing. Okay, so this is how you communicate between parent to child. Now, yeah, there's one more thing which I wanted to cover, that is use state, the React hooks, one of the React hooks, which is used for managing the state of a component. Okay. There are many other topics which is yet to be covered, which I'll be covering in next incoming sessions. And at the end of all these React concepts, I will also have one real world application built uh, just to have a practice and have more hands on the React. Okay. So React hooks where you can manage the state of a component, and how you can do that is you can simply import use state from React, and the way you declare this function is remove this, we don't need this now. Use state. Now this function actually returns an array which can be destructured in two elements. One is the property, uh, and the other one is setters of that property. Okay. So anything you can have any property, and also you will have a constant here. So this is the destructuring of an array which is returned by this use state. Okay. So this is how you declare a state. This will be a property and this will be a setter of that property. Okay. If you save this, what it is saying that parent function is not defined, which is we are somehow using still. Let me remove this and let's go to header, and again let me remove this and this. Okay. Save this, the error should be gone. So this is how you use a use state. Okay. Why do you need this state? I'll tell you. Let's create a counter first. How you can do that is, let's just have another, or maybe let's have another component and then you import that into our app.jsx. So let's have one counter component and rafce and here also import use state from React, and inside this let's have one state for count and set count. Okay. And this use state returns an array which we destructured into this count and set count. Okay. Now what I want to show here is just simply return an element with, let's say, with h1 only, and let's say count, and here you can mention the count. Save this and let's use this counter inside the app component. If I remove this and have it inside fragment, this header, and what is the name of counter units? Yeah. So this can be declared like this. Save this. Still something is wrong. This counter is not defined. We did not import this, right? So let me, we do not need use state here. We rather need to import, or maybe I just copy paste this, and instead of header we need counter. Okay. So here now if I reload, you have this count, and in front of count you do not have any number because the property is not set. If you want to set a default property of this property count, you can mention here. If you set it to 0, this is how it can. Okay. Now we will also have one button to increment this. Let me have a fragment, and we will have one h1 element and one button. Maybe instead of h1 we can have p, and button, for now we will just have this plus sign. Okay, so once I click on this button, this should increase, and I will also have one more button which decrement this count, and maybe also one button to reset the count. Okay. Instead of these characters, you can also use icons. So for using an icon, I can just quickly show you. You can use font awesome icons. So if you go to this React icons and the GitHub page for this React icons and search for, let's say, plus, maybe you can see this font awesome icon, and if you select that, it will show you what is it that you need to import, and you can use this as a component. So this is also a component, but before doing that, what you need to install is, let's go to our code. Since this is running our server, I will have one more terminal, and inside that I will install npm install react dash icons. So this is installed now. Now what you need to do is just import this, copy this, go to your counter component, import this and use this component like this. Instead of plus, you can just simply use this and go to your app, and you similarly what you can add for minus also. So this and import this, copy that and use this again instead of this. You can use this component. Okay, not plus, fa minus. Okay, save this. There is one extra bracket, and if you go back, your icons should appear. Now I'm not going to apply css now. First, just let us work with the functionality. Okay, let's bring it back here. Now what I want you to do, what we want to achieve here is, if we click on plus button, it should increase. If I click on minus button, it should decrease, and if I click on reset, it should, the count should reset to 0. Now how do we do that? With use state, it's pretty straightforward. On this button, we will have this on click method, which will bind to a function. We can have few function already declared. Const increment count counter, maybe arrow function, and inside this what you will do, you will set the counter by plus 1, and let's copy this and have another function for decrement counter, which what you do is, and on the reset counter you can just simply have on click, inside this you can call set count to 0. Save this. You will have to pass this inside these methods, and also inside this button on click. Now there is one more thing which we need to modify. I'll show you what is need to be modified, but let me just bring it down instead of keeping it right, and let me reload if we have any errors. Not if I click on this, it is incrementing, and if I click on this button, it is decreasing the count, and if I click on reset, it is resetting the value. Yeah, one more thing about updating the states. So this is how you are updating the state, but there is a better way. I tell you what, so if I copy this 3 times and then save it, if I click on plus button, it should have incremented by 3, right? But it is incrementing by only 1 and I'm clicking on increment counter. Why is that happening? Because React actually reads this at once and then in the last it just updates the state. It is not going to read it 3 times plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 and it is not expected to increment by 3. It will only increment by 1. So this kind of updation into the state can or maybe lead to bugs in case of long or complex applications. So uh, it is recommended to update a state. Instead of using this, what you can do is just have this as an arrow function, and this will also work. If we go back, see, this is also working fine. And if you have some similarly two statements, so now if I come here and click, see, it is incrementing by 2, sorry, not incrementing by 1. So this is the recommended way of updating your state. Now the general, I mean, standard way of doing this, either you prefix this with prev, whatever the property name, you can set it by prev count here and here also, so that it indicates that you are referring to the previous state of this variable. Okay. uh, or what you can have is just have the first letter of the variable count. So this is the way of updating a state. Similarly, you can do it for count also. So you can just remove this, have an arrow function and c minus 1. So you will see that this is also working fine and resets also working fine. Okay. So this was about use state. We will discuss more on use states and other React hooks like use context, use effect, and many more other concepts which are still pending. I just wanted to cover the very basics of React, how you write code into JSX, how you do conditional rendering and use states, and you can have multiple components in your project. Each components can inherit properties from different components, and you can pass props from parent to child. You can call back from child to parent. This is what we discussed today, and in the next session I'll cover the rest of the topics from React, and we will also at the end of this course we will create one real world application for having an hands-on experience on React. Okay, fine.